Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I'm going to be discussing Chapter 1 of the Fit Small Business case study for Xero accounting software. So I just signed up for a free trial and it's asking me the business name, and so let's get started. So this is going to be our Fit HVAC and Plumbing Inc. And we are plumbing contractors. Okay, United States, no employees. And let's start our free trial. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is just get set up. So if we go up here and we go to our settings, I think we can set up our address and stuff. So organizational details, we can go in here. So I'm not going to take the time, but obviously here you could, well, here we will select our organization type. We are an S corporation. Business registration number, EIN, a little description. Looks like we could put our address in. Very good. Telephone number, email, website. Very good. Okay, so that's our general information. Great. What else do we need to do? So that was telephone, email address. Okay, now we need to set some accounting settings. We want our method of accounting to be accrual, which I think will just be, that'll be the default here. We have bills and receivables, so it'll be accrual. The entity type needs to be an S corporation. We already did that. We need to set a fiscal year end. So actually here under our, let's go back to our organizational settings. You can go to these advanced settings down here, and that'll get a lot of the items that we need. Okay, so let's go to our financial settings. Sales tax we're going to deal with later. Our fiscal year end is December 31st. That's great. That's what we want it to be. Let's see, tax defaults, invoices, credit notes, and receive money items. Yes, so let's do tax exclusive. We'll add tax to any invoices that we need to add the tax to. Okay, lock dates. So we can lock dates. Okay, so it looks like the problem here is not letting us lock a date right now because we are not an advisor. We're only the owner, and so the time zone. Okay, so let's go ahead and save what we've got here. But let's real quick go into our user settings. So if we go back over here, we can go to our under settings, yeah, users, and we can add. So it has us as a standard user. We can change permissions, and here we want to, in addition to being a standard user, we want to be an advisor. There we go. Now that we're an advisor, we can set the lock dates. Right here we have lock dates. Okay, update permissions. Okay, so now back to our settings, advanced settings, and we can now set a lock date. Okay, actually we're not going to set the lock date yet. Let's make sure we get all of our information input in before we worry about setting a lock date, because it could mess us up. Okay, so good. I think we got all our financial settings in. Okay, it wants us to set up some, the case study asks us to set up 3 classes and 2 locations for tracking purposes. So let's go back to our, here we go, tracking categories. So now rather than telling us that you can track, classes and you can track locations, it just gives us 2 categories. We can have up to 2 categories. So our first category is going to be class. Within the class category, we're going to have HVAC, plumbing, and admin. Okay, so those are our 3 classes we want to track. Let's save those. And let's add a second category, and we're going to call that location. So this is A little bit different than QuickBooks. QuickBooks gives you class and location tracking. Here we just are given categories. We can make them whatever we want. So you could effectively, it's exactly like QuickBooks, but here you can just give your categories different names. So our locations are New York and Delaware. Okay, excellent. Good. So those are our two categories. We can only have two categories. If we try to add another one, it tells us including no more than two active categories. So, okay, but that's fine. That's all we need. Location and class. Now we need to get our beginning trial balance in here. So if we go to accounting, does it give us a trial balance here? No, let's go to advanced accounting options. Chart of accounts. There we go. Now we have a default chart of accounts here. So we're just going to start with what they have and we're going to modify it a little bit and then we'll enter our beginning balances. So an interesting thing here, so for bank accounts, you can go through the add bank account. You need, rather than just add a normal account for bank accounts, you need to add bank account. Okay, and it looks like it's going to force you to set up your bank online, but that's not the case. So let's go ahead and just choose Bank of America. Okay, so here's where you can create that bank connection, which you probably want to do, but for the purposes of the case study, we don't want to connect to bank because it's very hard to make a fake bank account, right? And so we're just going to do everything manually, and some people prefer to do it manually. So let's do skip, give it account name, let's just call this our checking account, and the code it wants here is the account number from the chart of accounts. I think we can give it 1,000. An account type, I think every day, day to day, I think is the checking account. Account number, maybe isn't this the 1,000? Okay, I'm not sure the difference between the account code and the account number. Okay, we'll just put them both as 1,000. Hit continue. Okay, there we go. Our checking account is now showing up in our chart of accounts. Now the reason you want to set up your checking account through the add bank account button is you can't print checks later on if you add it as a normal account. You have to have bank accounts in order to set up your to be able to print checks. Let's go ahead, and I also want to set up our credit card account as a bank account so that we can import transactions. So let's see, let's pick out a number first here. Let's make our credit card account like 2050. Okay, so add bank account. I'm just going to randomly choose a bank here because we're not going to hook up a bank. Skip. Don't connect bank. Okay, let's just call this credit card. Account type, credit card. I'm not going to put in the credit card number. Continue. Well, so you have to put your credit card number in. Can I skip this? Doesn't look like it. Well, I guess let me just put in some numbers. There we go. Interesting. Makes you put in those 4 numbers, but not. Okay, so those are the last 4 digits of the credit card number. Okay, so let's go back to our chart of accounts. It never let me give the account number, so I wonder what it did. Let's go back to our chart of accounts. It did not give it an account number. See if we can go in and give it an account number. what did we decide? 21, no, 2050, 2050. That's weird it didn't let us set that up while we were in there. We had to go in here and edit it. Not a big deal. Okay. Hopefully this is going to work. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to hit pause here until it stops working. Well, we seem to have a bit of a glitch here. It's not saving it, so I'm just gonna cancel out of there. So we don't have an account number for that, but I don't think that's probably a big deal. A little bit of a glitch, it seems. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and input the rest of our trial balance. So this should not take long. Looks like it's pretty easy to add accounts. I'm going to click Add Account. We need a cash account. That's going to be a current asset. Let's make it 1,010. Cash on hand. Enable payments to this account will allow us to pay things out of that account. Okay, we need a checking account. We've got that. We need a savings account. I could hook up the savings account as a bank account in order to be able to transfer stuff automatically, but I'm not going to do that. So we'll just use this as a manual account. Okay. Hey, our credit card account disappeared. Okay, look, so down here it did eventually give it that account number that I gave it. Okay, good. Okay, so we need an accounts receivable and an inventory. Looks like those are set up already as system accounts. They got that little lock there so that you can't change them. I think you can change the name of them. So we have an accounts receivable account, we have an accounts payable account, we've got an inventory asset. Perfect. We need an equipment account and a vehicles account. So we've got the vehicles, we've got the equipment. We need an accumulated depreciation account. Looks like we've got that. We need an accounts payable. There's a system account there. We need a credit card payable. We set that up. We need a loan payable. Let's see. I'm going to go in here. Let's see if we can just change it. So rather than a line of credit, let's change this to our loan payable. Okay, excellent. We need a common stock account. So rather than owner's capital, let's call this common stock. We need additional paid in capital. So instead of this owner's investment, we're going to call this additional paid in capital. And then we need a retained earnings account. They should probably already have one of those set up. Yes, they have a retained earnings account. That's a system account. Great, and so that's it. So we don't have to set up any income statement accounts. We'll just use what accounts they have, but we do need the balance sheet accounts because we need to transfer beginning balances in. Okay, so let's do that. Transfer our beginning balances in. So let's go to our accounting options here, or our settings. And they call beginning balances something a little odd. I can't remember what it is, but let's look here. Conversion balances, which makes sense, right? So you're converting from an old system, so your conversion balances are your beginning balances. So we need to add a conversion date. So we want to be the conversion date to be the beginning of this year. So we want this to be January of 2021. And it tells us then that our opening balances will need to be December 31st, 2020, which is exactly what we want. Okay, now this is a very cool, this is probably the handiest input method I've seen on the software. This is really cool. So let's just go through and enter our beginning balances. So first is cash on hand. So 100, what was it, 110 I think. I love that it gives you debits and credits. Oftentimes you have to guess whether they want you to do a positive or negative number, but with debits and credits it's easy. Let's go ahead and fill in these top ones. It's going to make it easier. So the checking account is $10,000. Accounts receivable is 0. Accounts payable is 0. Credit card is that would be a credit of $6,000. There we go. Okay, now just go through and do this. So our checking account. Oh, I'm sorry, we already got our checking account up there. Our savings account of $150,000. Our equipment account has $75,000. Our vehicles account has $60,000. Our accumulated depreciation, they have two different accounts. I only have one account from the prior software, so I'm going to put it all in this one account. We'll see, that might mess us up later. We'll see. $115,000, that's a credit. Credit card payable we've entered. Okay, common stock. That should be a $3,000 account. So there it is. Oops, what happened there? $3,000 account, that's a credit. I don't know, about the only thing that I find a little annoying here is that you have to double click on a field before you can enter the number. So additional paid in capital, I select that and then I click over here. I have to click again before I can enter the number. I suppose that's not a big deal, just a little annoying. And then retained earnings of $154,000. Okay, credits equal debits. We are good to go. And look here, now it gives us the option to lock the balances so that nobody can change these. I love it that it gives you that option right there. You don't have to go anywhere else. Very cool. And it's like the accountants designed this. They understand that once you input your beginning balances, you don't want anybody messing with anything prior to that date. I love it. Save. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some scoring here. We've gotten a lot accomplished in a very short amount of time. Okay, so company name, address, telephone, email, there's places for all of that. We were able to record the S corporation type, the fiscal year end. We created 3 classes, 2 locations, easily modified the chart of accounts. We input the beginning balances and we closed the books. Wow, very good. Super easy. Okay, add additional user is a piece of cake here. So we go to, I think we saw it. Yeah, we already messed with it a little bit. In our settings, we have the users. Here we go. So we want to invite a new user. In the case study tells us we want to invite, I think it was Jane Doe. And I'm just going to make up an email address. So Jane Doe is going to be our accounts payables accountant. So she needs access to just the billing system. So we'd like to do that. So we don't want her to have access to projects. Business and accounting, we want to have access. Standard bank accounts and balances, we don't want her to do that. Invoice only, I think, is the closest. So here we go. purchase orders and bills. Approve and pay. Okay, so I think for an accounts payable person, let's just do the purchases. Okay, and there we go. Let's send her an invite, and we should be good. So up here, add the additional user, restrict the rights of the additional user. Okay, import a chart of account, import beginning balances. Let's see if we didn't have to do it, but let's see if it's possible. Accounting, chart of accounts. So our chart of, here we go. Import. Okay. Does your file import beginning balances? So here's always handy. If they give you an example of what the file should look like, that usually is really handy. You can just make your file exactly like this and it'll work. Okay, so here's our example file. So good. Yeah, these look like the same fields that were in the screens we were manually inputting the accountants in. So we have the account number, account name, account type, tax code, description, and then a few of those yes, no questions they ask, and then a beginning balance. So they have no beginning balance in here, but there is a column for it. So you could simply paste and copy or export your chart of accounts along with balances from your prior system, format it like this spreadsheet, and it should be a piece of cake to import it. Very cool. Okay, import chart of accounts, import beginning balances, and look at that, Xero scored perfectly on our basic information. Very good. That's chapter 1 for Xero of the Fit Small Business case study.